Well, that was year 20. So, why am I making a year 20 video? A couple reasons. A, I've learned a lot, and I feel like some of the lessons you guys could probably learn too. Mostly because I just fucked up a lot, that's it. Turn this down. B, I realized a lot of things about life that I think might be interesting to you. And C, my friend Adrian just did one, and I feel like it was very helpful for him, and so I'm gonna do one too. Welcome to the show! First things first, I want to talk about how I started year 20. My birthday is October 23rd, so last October 23rd, I was working a 9-to-5 job at a company called and I was doing social media advertising, so what they call paid social. In my time working there from April of 2017 to really February of 2018, I learned everything I needed to be able to A, consult on marketing, B, run my own business successfully, and C, why I don't want a 9-to-5 job. Here is a quick roadmap of what my year 20 looked like. Started year 20 working that job. That fall, I had an incident that almost got me fired. And then January was it's cold. And then February, I had this moment of reflection where I realized that A, I don't want to do that job, and B, I had to find something else fast. I was just feeling a lot of fear and anxiety and frustration. And before I go any further, I want to say that the theme of year 20 for me was fear. It was running from college, it was running from relationships, it was running from being broke, which is, I guess, is a positive one, and they're sometimes positive and negative. But it was a year of fear, and I was doing a lot of looking behind me, trying to make sure I was going the right direction. And my goal for year 21 is to act less on fear and act more on optimism and things like that. So after working in the media agency, September, October, November, December, January, I was exhausted. There was so much work, 60-hour work weeks, crazy, hectic work environment, always something changing on a dime. It was insane. It was insane. February, I kind of hit a point where I realized that I never wanted to do a 9-to-5 again. And I had always kind of known that's what I wanted to do, was leave and go do my own thing, but I didn't quite know how I was gonna get there until that moment. And the way I got there was I reached it. And once you reach it, you just will do anything to escape. And I quit for a couple reasons. And again, this was motivated by fear, was the fear of the depressing feeling of working a 9-to-5, which for some people isn't an issue. For me, it was. I was very sad, and that every day was the same thing. And it was getting excited for Fridays and then hating Mondays. That cycle is brutal. It was the fear that would be my eternity for life, which is the scariest thing of all, I thought. And so, in acting on fear, I quit. So, next steps, according to my ideas list, this is blank, stop lying to you. Next steps are to explain why I just quit my job, and what I did at my job, and why it's important to what I'm doing right now. And I left for a life of freelancing. And that February was the craziest month ever. It's time to go to LA. I got my 2 biggest jobs ever, and those 2 jobs put me in a position to start my freelance career. The first one was with a company that you're very familiar with, GQ. A good friend recommended me for a gig during Fashion Week, and to that good friend, you probably aren't watching this, but you know who you are, thank you. You have done more for me this year and for my career than I think you'll ever realize. So thank you, man. To you and everyone else that has been recommending me for jobs and putting me on emails and just pushing my name out there, thank you. It means more than you guys might know. So the first job was with GQ. I got recommended for a job during the middle of the day. I get a random email and it says, Taylor, we just had a videographer cancel and we need someone to jump in immediately to fill this position. And so I emailed back and say, I'm down, let's do it. I called off sick in work, I just left, and I went to New York Fashion Week. And the show was, as many of you might know, it was Tom Ford Menswear. And the guy that I worked with, AJ, who I now consider a good friend, he's currently traveling the world doing God knows what, but at the time he was running social media for GQ. And so I was working with him on site, making the video awesome, and he's the greatest guy, and he made it so smooth working with GQ for the first time, and it was insane. And that was the moment when I realized that it was real, that I could like do it for real. The video needed to be turned around in 8 hours. It was still one of my fastest turnarounds to date. And so I got home, started editing, 1 a.m. sent over a draft, went to bed, slept 4 or so hours, woke up again with another edit, went back and forth a little bit, video was posted at 8 a.m. And a little tidbit to those of you who have seen the video, if you didn't catch, there's actually a typo. That is the result of fast turnarounds. So the GQ job was amazing, and that kind of put me on the map for a lot of people. And from that, a company out in Los Angeles named Uninterrupted, shout out to Uninterrupted, you guys are awesome, sent me an email. And these are the kind of emails that I think freelancers frame. I did not, but I feel like I should. The email read, "Hi Taylor, how soon can you be in LA?" And those words stick in my head to this day because it's the coolest email to get. How soon can you be in LA? Yes, like sign me up. So I responded tomorrow. They booked me the flights, I fly out to LA, and I shoot with 2 basketball players that you might know, John Wall and Anthony Davis. Those videos are on my Instagram. If you haven't seen them, go check them out. And so those 2 jobs were right as I was quitting Media Assembly. And they kind of set the story arc for my freelance career. And as many freelancers know, there are the ebbs and the flows of like exposure that you get from jobs. And this was a flow. And I think I didn't realize how big of a flow that was until it ebbed again a month later. And I was not, getting as nearly, I wasn't getting 80,000 views a day off a GQ video. I was just posting videos on my Instagram, getting a couple hundred views. So yeah, I learned a lot from the month of February. It was insane. March was like month 1 of freelancing, truly. And March taught me more about how to be a freelancer than I think every piece of my life prior to that, because it was back against the wall and let's figure out how to make this work. So what I did to combat that is I just did a slew of one-off jobs, just trying to put food on the table and keep moving. And it was fine until I needed something more stable, and a good friend of mine suggested using the retainer structure, which is what I use now for a lot of my clients, which is X amount of dollars a month for X amount of deliverables, and everyone's happy. And you get paid consistently, and that for freelancers is a really big one. It's huge as a freelancer. March went by, and then April, and I was still doing it, and June, July, August, and I wasn't broke, and I had signed 2 more clients, and people you've probably seen, Mike Schulte has been a supporter from the beginning, shout out Mike, and it's been so good to me. But one of the things that I want to talk about is the bad parts of my year 20. And I think that I might be the most helpful to you guys. So let's talk about relationships. That's fun. No, it's not fun. I want to talk about my one big relationship in year 20, because I feel like the things that I learned from that will benefit you. And that's the only reason I'm talking about it, because damn. But alas, this video is not in service of me only, it is in service of you guys. So relationships are hard to talk about because the other person has opinions and you have opinions and you can both be right. And that was one of the things that I learned from that specific relationship. So overall, you can both be right, and it could still not work. TV and movies teach you that relationships are a set of steps that you take with a person, and then you're dating, and then you're married, and it's like a set of things, but it's not that clear cut in real life. It's never very black and white. It is always a blurry mix of emotions and decisions, and you never really, I mean, I think there are a few points where you know where you're at, but that's the hardest part, I think, is being clear and focused on where you're at in a relationship, and most times you don't know. And this specific relationship, so the relationship ended in a way that hurt both of us, and there's no blame. I feel like that's the one thing that I've worked through a lot, is empowering myself to not blame others in relationships, but also not blame myself for everything. Because a relationship will oftentimes teach you more about yourself than it will teach you about the other person. And sometimes the relationship teaches you things that you don't want to know. And that is exactly what happened here. It taught me a lot of things that I didn't want to know and didn't ever care to know about myself. And I think the way I want to end this relationship segment is saying 3 things. You both can be right in a relationship. There's often not a right and a wrong, which is hard. Don't think about relationships logically a lot of times, because they're not going to make sense. 2, to get over hard endings of relationships, it takes structure. I mean, truthfully, the way that I powered through it was by working, continuing to pursue my craft, and not having my identity be in that relationship totally. I did so by therapy. By the way, shout out to therapy and my therapist. She's the best. If you have never seen a therapist or want to see a therapist, there's tons of resources. I'll probably put some in the description below. I think therapy is key. I think every single person on the planet should at least do 1 therapy session, because you don't go and just ask someone on the street to fix your car, and your body and your mind are the same way. Like, you should go to a professional. And so I am a huge proponent of therapy. I think everyone should go to a therapist at some point. And C, by having people around me that I can talk to. And I think having those people, along with therapy, along with focusing on your work and building yourself up, are the biggest and most powerful ways to get over a relationship ending. So I'm gonna leave that section at that, and on to the next one. I wanna talk about camera gear in year 20. I made a big switch. Posted some videos about it, but I wanna talk a little bit briefly on that, because, I don't know, I think camera gear is fun, and if you're watching me, you probably are a filmmaker or have something to do with that. So I switched from Panasonic, the GH5, well, first the GH3, and then the GH5, and now the Sony a7S II. Why did I switch to Sony? I'm gonna say 3 things, and some people will disagree with me, but depth of field, low light, and longevity. I am not betting any money on Micro Four Thirds anymore, which is the sensor that Panasonic cameras use, or at least the GH series uses. I just wanna be on a full frame camera, a system that I know will work, invest in a system that I think will hold value, and continue to build on this system. So Sony, all day, Sony Alpha. Let's do it. I don't think this is the Sony Alpha symbol. Illuminati, do. So where does that leave us with this video? Well, it leaves us at, what do I want for year 21? I want to build stronger relationships in year 21. There are lots of people in my life right now that I want to continue to invest my time into, and to listen and help build them up, and just continue to support them as creators, as artists, and just see my friends succeed more in year 21. I want to stop acting out of fear in year 21 and start acting out of optimism and excitement for the future. I feel like those emotions motivate more, and are also a way healthier way to be motivated as a creator. And lastly, I want to try and be more healthy. You know, I'm not off to a great start here, but I want to work out more, and I want to, you know, continue to invest in my body just as much as everything else in my life. So yeah, that is a brief synopsis of year 20. So please reach out if you have any questions for me. I'm happy to answer any, and if I can be helpful, I want to be. And I hope that you guys learned something from this video. I tried to learn a lot in year 20, and I hope that I continue to learn at the same pace in year 21. So to year 20, I bid you adieu. And to year 21, let's fucking get it.
Hermes link, ice blue mink, tat on my wrist like I do not know what permanent is. They want me gone, wait for the kicker. Bury me now and I only get bigger, that's word of my nigga. Yeah, October firm in the cut. Stay at the top like I'm stuck, that's just how I'm giving it up.